Have you ever wondered what factors are taken into account to define whether a country is poor or rich? Well, we tell you that there are many factors that are taken into account, at least the per capita and the Human Development Index, which combines life expectancy and education indicators. All these factors are taken into consideration when looking at the human development of each country. Do you want to know which are the 8 poorest countries in the world? Well, stay with us until the end of the video to learn about 8 of them. First, we have Burundi. With a GDP per capita of 269, Burundi is the poorest country in the world. The majority of its population depends on agriculture, and the country has suffered ethnic conflicts and a civil war. Burundi is a nation located in Central Africa, characterized by being one of the poorest countries in the world. This situation is due to a combination of factors, including political instability, ethnic conflicts, and lack of natural resources. The country's economy is highly dependent on subsistence agriculture, which hinders economic and social development. In addition, Burundi has suffered from humanitarian crises, forced population displacements, and high levels of violence, which has contributed to the precarious economic situation in which it finds itself. The lack of access to basic services such as education, health, and housing has perpetuated the cycle of poverty in which the country is mired. It is important to highlight that poverty in Burundi is not only reflected in economic indicators, but also in the quality of life of its population. Malnutrition, lack of access to drinking water, and the high infant mortality rate are some of the consequences of the extreme poverty in which the Burundian population finds itself. In this context, it is essential that the international community continues to provide support to Burundi, both in terms of humanitarian assistance and development cooperation. Only through a joint and sustained effort will it be possible to lift this country out of the extreme poverty in which it finds itself and provide its population with the opportunity for a more prosperous and dignified future. We continue with Haiti. Located on the Caribbean island of Hispaniola, it is considered the poorest country in the world, according to various socioeconomic indicators. This nation has faced a number of challenges throughout its history, from political conflicts and natural disasters to problems of corruption and extreme poverty. Poverty in Haiti manifests itself in multiple aspects, including high levels of malnutrition, lack of access to basic services such as education and health, and a weak economy dependent on foreign aid. Furthermore, the lack of infrastructure and limited human development have contributed to the perpetuation of poverty in Haiti, making it a monumental challenge for local authorities and the international community to find effective and sustainable solutions to improve the living conditions of the population. Haitian. The challenges of the Haitian economy are numerous and complex, and overcoming them requires a comprehensive and coordinated approach. Firstly, the lack of adequate infrastructure is one of the main obstacles to the country's economic development. The shortage of roads, ports, and basic services such as electricity and drinking water hinders commercial activity and limits growth opportunities. Furthermore, political instability and widespread corruption have created a climate of uncertainty that discourages foreign investment and hinders the development of a strong and competitive business sector. The lack of transparency in the administration of public resources and the weakness of government institutions also contribute to the country's precarious economic situation. Another major challenge is the high rate of unemployment and underemployment, which mainly affects the young population and contributes to widespread poverty. The lack of formal job opportunities drives migration to neighboring countries in search of better living conditions, which in turn compromises Haiti's economic growth potential. On the other hand, we find the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It is one of the poorest countries in the world due to a combination of complex and challenging factors. These include widespread corruption, protracted violence, mismanagement of natural resources, and a series of political and humanitarian crises. These problems have contributed to perpetuating poverty and instability in the country, hindering any attempt at sustainable development. Despite its vast natural resources, the country's wealth has not translated into significant improvements in the quality of life of its population, reflecting the deep gap between the rich few and the vast majority of poor. Consequently, the Democratic Republic of the Congo remains one of the poorest countries in the world, with an uncertain and challenging future. Fourth place is held by Zimbabwe. A country located in southern Africa, it faces a situation of extreme poverty that has seriously affected its population. The combination of factors such as economic mismanagement, corruption, and recurring political crises has led the country to find itself in a critical situation in which the majority of its inhabitants live in conditions of extreme poverty. The lack of access to basic services such as drinking water, education, and adequate medical care has contributed to the deterioration of the population's living conditions, increasing the gap between the richest and poorest sectors. Additionally, food shortages and runaway inflation have made even purchasing basic goods a challenge for many Zimbabweans. For the fifth country, we're going to ask you first to like and share this content with friends to see if they know the next one on the list. South Sudan. As one of the youngest countries in the world, South Sudan has a GDP per capita of $313. Despite its independence in 2011, the country continues to face violence and devastation. The poverty situation in South Sudan is a highly relevant issue today, as the country has experienced internal and external conflicts that have led to an unprecedented humanitarian crisis. Poverty in South Sudan is manifested through lack of access to basic services such as education, health, and clean water, as well as food shortages and food insecurity. Furthermore, violence and political instability have contributed to the destruction of infrastructure and the loss of livelihoods of the population, further increasing the vulnerability of the most disadvantaged. Poverty in South Sudan is a multidimensional phenomenon that disproportionately affects rural communities and internally displaced people, who are forced to live in precarious conditions and face constant threats to their security and well-being. In the sixth place, we will talk about Somalia, who have a per capita of $1,364. Poverty in Somalia is the result of a complex interaction of historical, political, economic, and social factors. The long history of armed conflicts, political instability, the lack of basic infrastructure, the scarcity of natural resources, and the high incidence of natural disasters have contributed to the perpetuation of poverty in this country. Furthermore, widespread corruption, mismanagement of public resources, and the lack of an effective governance system have exacerbated the situation, preventing the implementation of policies and programs that could improve the living conditions of the Somali population. The lack of rainfall in this country has led to severe droughts that affect agricultural production and food availability. Therefore, the lack of local production and dependence on imports make food prices inaccessible for many people. Although a factor that greatly affects displacement is that conflicts and natural disasters have forced millions of Somalis to move, which worsens food insecurity and poverty. The seventh country is Mozambique. Although Mozambique has experienced accelerated economic growth, driven primarily by foreign direct investment and extractive industries such as coal mining, this growth has not equitably benefited the entire population. Furthermore, they have a dependence on agriculture, and around 80% of the population depends on subsistence agriculture, which is vulnerable to natural disasters such as droughts and floods. And this affects food security and people's ability to generate income. Beyond this, there are significant inequalities in access to education and healthcare, especially among women and rural communities. These factors contribute to a situation where a large part of the population lives in conditions of poverty, with few opportunities to improve their quality of life. The government and international organizations are working to address these issues, but progress is slow and poverty remains a key challenge for Mozambique. And finally, we have Victoria, a nation in Central Africa. It has a population of approximately 1.2 million and a density of 76 people per square kilometer. Although it depends mainly on oil, it has low income compared to other countries. The lack of education persists, showing little interest in reading and writing. In contrast to the image of opulence in Mumbai, India, the slum population struggles for 2 meals a day on minimal income. Despite government efforts, a lack of education limits the ability to take advantage of programs, contributing to persistent poverty in the country. Remember to subscribe to our channel, where you can find videos like this and where we talk about the most beautiful women in the world. Do you know which one it is? Well, run and see it, and we'll wait for you in a next video.